Hello and welcome along to our weekly Think About It session and our empowered leadership discussions. Tienie, hello, welcome along.
Hey, Kirsty, thank you. I see we both got the black memo.
It's the mood of the week.
Yes, okay.
Oh. For those that haven't joined us before, every Thursday me and Tinie come together. Sometimes we have some guests and we take a tiny little topic of conversations we haven't out with our clients, just out in the general coaching landscape, and we bring it to you to help you become a more empowered, collaborative leader in your workplace. So today we're talking about why learning and development is here to stay. Now, that's quite a bold statement in itself, I think. And I think what would be really helpful is for us to just unpack what we mean by that, what does that actually look like, because let's not kid ourselves. The landscape of coaching, mentoring, learning and development, organizational development, whatever you want to categorize it as, is going to change and is changing rapidly. And with the integration of AI coming thick and fast, we are seeing constant changes. So whilst we're making a bold statement, I think it's probably is wise for us to unpack that. What do we mean by that? We're not talking about really traditional L&D here, are we, that we're talking about with that statement?
No.
So
learning and development is transformed and is busy transforming. The two key elements in the landscape of working for an organization, people are looking for two things. The one is mobility, i.e. what's my roadmap look like in the business? Can I go work in a foreign country for 2 years? That kind of thing. And the second thing is personal and professional development.
Yeah.
So those are key things, and even more so with millennial, Gen Z, and potentially Gen Alpha coming into work. Those are things that people are going to be looking for. Mm-hmm. And then the second element to those two things from a landscape perspective is it's some human needs are going to be fulfilled by digital assistants. And the familiarity in that space and being able to be comfortable being coached by a digital assistant, or going through a learning and development journey where you get challenged with the digital assistant on application and impact of your learning and development. That's kind of also in my mind, what's happening going forward. And quite a few things came out of Davos in the papers that I've read around this space. And it's how is learning and development, or the current look and feel of learning and development, going to shape and become and remain relevant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely. Because when we think about, because learning and development in itself is a really old term. And I think, like you say, we are moving. And I think all we talking about when we refer to organizational development, learning development, we are talking about the development of our people strategy, and what that looks like. Because very traditionally, this would be workshops, training, like your traditional requirement of certain trainings and stuff. And I think that's really old-fashioned, old school, and a bit of an archaic approach to developing our people. But I just wanted to be really clear for anyone listening, that's just in the general realms of what we're talking about, because I think different people term it very differently, or they align with different terminologies or wording. But in talk, we're talking about our development of our people, aren't we? And the investment and development of their skills and themselves.
Yeah. So I would love learning and development as a statement to transcend that, because like HR is transcending into people success partner, which makes more sense because that's what you are. And so learning and development, I feel that statement minimizes what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And your culture displays your business's values, whether you like what you see or not.
And I think also, just taking that term and what you've just said there, is like, when we think of traditional L&D, it's like structured formal courses, whereas going forward, organizations, I believe, are going to have to take a holistic approach to their people strategy, their people development. It's going to be more fluid. It's going to be more, what does that individual need versus we've got a course booked for 50 people. Everyone has to go through it. We're going to dip everyone through. Whereas actually, what does that function need? What does that person need? Like, and how do we support people individually, but as a whole? I think, and that's a very different approach to the formalized structure of, this is our budget. Everyone has to go through this training. Everyone has to go through that training. And I think it's almost changing people's perspectives of what people strategy is in a business and what organizational people development actually is, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. So typically in learning and development space, you're either reactive or proactive. Mm-hmm. One of those two things happens. And the three things that impact whether you're reactive or proactive is the actual influence and implementation of what it is you're teaching or learning someone or teaching someone, your strategic alignment. How are you aligned to the strategic intent of the business? And is what you're going to be teaching people and colleagues in the business aligned to that and is relevant in that space for you? And then also, are you transformational? So it's elements in that then make you relevant for the business.
Because I think when we talk about the L&D piece dying out, like, because with everything we change, and AI is going to change everything. And there is, and we've mentioned it before, we're doing some work with Northumbria Uni they're doing a research paper for us. What is the future of L&D? Is it still required in business? Like, what does that look like? Because there is that threat to actually it's just going to be replaced by technology and digital. And whilst that will definitely be the case, there will be some element that will go that way. I also feel like that something you said there's how it stays relevant is about the strategic intent. Whereas if we go, right, this is where we want the business to be in 5 years, let's organize our development and skills and all that stuff for our people around that and help move us there stronger. Like, that to me is the strategy of remaining strong from an L&D perspective versus going, let's just rinse and repeat what we've done for the last 5 years, because that's where it's going to become redundant as a function, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it is the whole thing about becoming the conduit between technology and human need. Mm-hmm. And how are you actually making yourself relevant in that space? And just to build on your point that yes, some people will be made redundant, but then from a learning and development perspective, how can we reskill and upskill and stack skill individuals that are great people in our business that live our values that we want to retain? And so it's taking the responsibility of the mobility and personal and professional development space seriously.
And that's where I think the personalised learning piece comes in versus the one size fits all cut and repeat and copy and paste. And that's, I think, going to be so, and I think for anyone like businesses like ours that's delivering coaching, any kind of training and development, the real key for me is bespokeness and personalising what individuals and businesses really need versus he's a very standard first line manager program. I put everyone through and it's all the same and that's what we do and we never review it. Whereas actually for businesses to really stand out from an employability perspective, but also like as an employer, like people do want very bespoke offerings to help them get to where they want to be, which in turn will help the organization get to where they want to be in those goals and so on.
Yes. I'm being transparent in the development arena. So make no mistake, that first line manager rollout program that we've got helps consistently in the way that that first line manager group is managing people in your business from a consistency perspective. But have we revised that makes it relevant for 2025, or is it the 2016 program that we keep rolling out?
Yes.
And we don't know why people aren't buying into it? And so from a learning and development perspective, you've got almost an equal responsibility as the CEO to ensure that the product that you send out is a product that's relevant and makes sense for the individuals that are going on the program? And are you making sure that it is then transcending that learning and becoming almost the day-to-day behavior of the people that have consumed your product? And make no mistake, the CEO wants this company to be relevant, pioneering, becoming the future of the organization. And are you, as learning and development, aligned to that and doing the same thing from a product rollout?
And because obviously listening, and I'm thinking of people listening into our conversation, and for kind of like, obviously our client base tends to be those SMEs, bigger SMEs that don't have a fully operational and L&D function in-house. So how do you see that? How do you see it changing for people that are listening, and what are the biggest challenges that they're going to face going forward with trying to keep L&D or organizational development kind of relevant, do you think?
It's being so there's a couple of things going off in my head, but it's the whole great idea, because this is what the managing director wants. How is this great idea aligned to the strategic intent of the business? What is the conditions that we're playing in when we deliver this for ourselves? Who are the people that we need to be able to do that? And then how are we measuring the impact? And it aligns to the approach we take when we consult on something like this. And that is understanding the clarity of how this will transform and how this is strategically aligned to your business. So the two challenges I see that come out of that is there is no clear messaging regarding learning. And unless you've got a clear message as to what it is we're trying to do here, and then look at the group that it's going to impact and have a conversation with them, i.e. line managers, onboarding, offboarding, hiring, HR, whatever the spaces that you're going to be operating with, the learning element that you feel is a potential limitation in your business, have a conversation with them, because they might come up with something from a self-directed learning perspective that helps them in their skill set and expertise. And it's those kind of things that I feel learning and development specialists, I think some people are so busy being busy in creating product that having the strategic discussion around aligning the product is fallen by the wayside, or people are lazy. So it's the accountability piece, I think, is going to be becoming more challenging, and also being okay with the fact that your product's been rejected because we don't like it. Go back to the drawing board. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's good feedback.
I've got a question, and it's quite controversial, but let's go with it. Do you think, and I would like to have spoken to you about this outside of this before we had it, but I think I haven't chatted to you, so here goes. How do you think the future of, considering what's going on politically and what big organizations are doing around their DEI policy, like obviously Trump's removing that, it's not a thing anymore. We've seen huge organizations, obviously Meta, all that stuff, removing that policy. Do you think that's going to kind of have a knock-on effect of the whole attitude and approach to support in an organization?
Okay. I love edgy conversations, Kirsty.
Just a little left field there for you.
So thank you. The two things, and this aligns to our belief strongly, is that we need to become colorblind, which includes the whole DEI environment piece, as well as racism, but we need to become colorblind, and people need to do work based on merit.
Yeah.
And as soon as we can get to those two places, it doesn't matter what rules are in place. It doesn't matter what policies and procedures you've got in place.
Yeah.
If you can truly align to being colorblind or sexual orientation blind, or being truly okay with what's going on, and people are in roles based on merit because their skill set suits what it is we need then. And it might only be for 12 months that we need you, because that's also going to start happening, is that I've got a skill set and I'm going to sell, I can only sell 6 hours this week to you, and the other 40 hours goes to someone else. However you want to slice and cut your skill set and selling it, that's going to start happening. And so being okay with the fluidity of that, I don't care how many policies get written or actually deleted.
I totally agree, and I think that fluidity piece is so important. I think
critical
where we've been rigid in the past, and I think we have. No, I'm not talking us. I'm talking, collectively. There have been so many policies put onto organisations or put onto businesses that are so rigid that people have almost feared diversion from them, and I think we are having to change. We are having to be fluid, and I think you're completely right in that whole merit piece that has to come back to that. And I think how we move forward as businesses and organisations, having people that are working for us 6 hours a week, 40 hours a month versus 40 hours a week, like, we are going to see these changes because people do want different things out of life, and they want to. And I do think we're going to have more of that multi-hyphened approach to organisations, or people having their own businesses.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And the just to build on what you're saying, the being able to flex with that is critical for you as a business. The other piece is that in creating policies and procedures and helping the people success team from a learning and development team is that as soon as you are starting to add value, you will get a seat at the table. It doesn't matter whether you're the commercial director versus the marketing strategist or the HR lead. You need to add value to be able to sit at the table so that you can influence the direction of this that sustains your business. The other piece from a policy perspective is that people roll out policies that are just 2, 3, 4 pages long, and fingers crossed, hope for the best, people will read that. And yes, there's a tick box to say that you've read it on our CRM system. And so, yes, we've got 100% success rate on reading the document. Offer something that offers the highlights that impact you at work related to this policy as a headline, and have a workshop discussing that and the implementations of that. And as a consequence of that, people might want to go and read further to have an understanding. And so influence people into towards state rather than be combative and have a threat away from state within that rollout of it. And learning and development plays a crucial role in that, because human resources say, there it is, it's on the CRM. Learning and development need to say, whoa, before we do that, let's do this so that we can get people to go there. And it's
the application, isn't it? The L&D, the application of that.
And it's that conversation, and that's where you start adding value. Rather than anybody can, with digital assistants these days, we can create presentations and content and all of that thing. But our true thing that we always talk about is the application and impact that's relevant.
Yeah. And I think the reason I asked you that question is because I was like, my initial response is, and not a response, but also the desire, I think, of, are people now going to start operating with curiosity of, is this the right way? Is this what we should be doing? Is this beneficial to the greater good? Rather than being told this is the right thing and everybody having to conform blindly. And that's kind of where I feel like we've come from. And I'm not getting into the political side of it. I just think it's really interesting to watch what's happening in the wider landscape, because you're right, it does impact the organizational development piece, the L&D piece, and it just falls into all of this, the periphery of what we're trying to do and support with. So I think I encourage change. I encourage curiosity. I think we should always be like reviewing, and is this right? Because I think as people, as the most of people, we do the right thing with the information we've got at the time. But when we become more knowledgeable and educated and informed, or have things from a different perspective, I think sometimes we get stuck in the we've always done it that way, well, that we have to do that, where actually just stopping and challenging and being curious, I always feel like there's always merit in that.
Yeah. And I love that, Kirsty. And you and I always just flow in our conversations with these things, because I trigger you and you trigger me, and we just go into the ebb and flow of that. So I agree wholeheartedly with the change piece. And the change piece is, it's the personal growth in their own moment of change that's required, and trying to meet the individual there in their own moment of change is where you will add most value, whether it's a one-to-one coaching session, a 1-hour facilitation program, a self-directed online learning piece, all of those things. But it's all about the relevance of that for us. And the other thing, just going back to the policies and procedures conversation, I'm just bringing that back, is that I love what's happening in the world, because what people are trying to do is diminish choice. And what I mean by that is not so that you don't have a choice, it's that you don't have so many things that you have to choose from. So it's helping you choose either that or that. I want something in the middle, so let me create something in the middle. But it's almost helping people being able to make a decision about something, is what I'm seeing the pattern is that's unfolding. But let's watch this space and see where it lands.
So, playing the rebel, we've named this Why We Believe L&D is Here to Stay.
Yeah.
Why did we name it that? Why do we feel like that's even in question?
People will always want personal and professional development. And in a business, the need for people development will always be there. And it's the how you fulfill that need that will retain your people. And it is that whole retention piece, and also increased performance for your business and increased relevance for your business. So it's a consequential ripple effect that takes place as a result of you developing someone in your business to become better than who they are.
Do you think we're at risk of people looking at their current old-fashioned traditional L&D and going, there's not space for this in the future of our business, like this isn't how we operate anymore? Do you think there's a risk of almost that uneducated need for change in that function?
Yeah, it's only a risk if you're irrelevant. And if you're irrelevant, it's you as a learning and development department that hasn't created relevance. And so I think, yes, there's going to be a lot of self-exploration going on. And there is going to be a lot of things going on from a, do we really need this, going forward? I would say it will always be needed. It may just need to change the functionality of it, or the point of entry in your business of it, or the structure of what it looks like. So maybe have a good look at what your learning development department looks like and understand the relevance, because those people are skilled people that have got good knowledge, that know how to translate data into a learning moment or a learning piece of work. And so how can I form that, utilize and capitalize that skill set that it benefits my business? Even although they may not be having the discussion with you, you as the owner or leader in the business, have that discussion with them in having the relevance discussion. We don't just discard a child that we have because we don't like them anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a family. You're a family. And so just saying, hey, L&D is not important anymore because they're not relevant. Make them relevant. Have the discussion.
And I think also just because not everybody has a whole department, right? So even if you're a small business that has, 10, 20 people or 100 people, you might still not have a department. And I think that's the benefit of having someone like us. You can, you ebb and flow, we can ebb and flow. Like we can dip in, we can dip out. And I think that even bigger organizations, I feel, are probably going to go more to that fractional support of get what they need, personalized when they need it. Turn the tap on, turn the tap off. And I think they're going to need somebody forward thinking enough to go, what does the future of our people development really look like? Because probably is what they're looking at, and looking at going by is no longer relevant, and it isn't going to serve the future of where the working world's coming, unless it's a very traditional organization that there's not going to change. But I don't see how any kind of digitalization or AI isn't going to impact any or all industries as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think the rate of change is so quick that I think 2% of businesses are going to be able to keep up. And those are most probably technology businesses that'll be able to keep up the rate of change. The rest of the groups will still maintain a traditional look and feel from a learning perspective, but it's how L&D flexes in the space and the new circumstances that are being created to maintain relevance and create, be part of the whole strategic intent of that business, because the business is going to have a strategy conversation on how do we change with the strategy? What is it that our people need so that we can remain relevant against our competitors? And how is L&D going to help us orientate towards that? And so drag L&D into the future if you need to, but have those conversations.
Yeah. And I think you're right in the fact that I think the whole why we feel like it's here to stay, we need to invest in our people. We need to develop them from a place of their own personal fulfillment and purpose, but also from a competitive perspective. Like if we become a really great employer that is known for investing and looking after our people, we're going to get the best and we're going to keep the best. And whether that's keeping them for a year or 10 years, we're going to get what we need. So I do think the need to look after our people is only growing. How we do that is, you're right, changing. And I think organizations need to become aware of what that change looks like to meet that requirement going forward. But I think you're right. I think it's here to stay in some capacity. That will look different to everybody or whatever that looks like. But I don't think we should also underestimate the ability to have digital stuff for people to learn from, or the power of AI, and to really tap into it and use it.
Yeah. And the sooner you embrace the whole generative artificial intelligence in whatever language model it presents itself in your industry or field of expertise, I would say give people permission.
Yeah.
The protocol sits in the translation of the information generated into the application at work. And that's where the protocol needs to sit. And that's where your learning and development and people success teams can come in and help with that in how people do that. And then the other piece is also the whole element of the human needs fulfilled by non-human platforms.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up as we come to the top of the hour. What we said is, in summary, the key takeaways that I've kind of got, and please feel free to add one, is we need a more personalised approach for individuals, whatever that looks like. Align that with your strategic intent of where you want to be. Align all your people development to your strategic intent, rather than looking back and using what you've traditionally used. And also adapt to any digitalization AI where you can to utilize that. Would you add anything else?
Yeah, I would say measure yourself against transformation rather than meeting expectations. In other words, how is what I'm doing transforming the business? Here's the case study, here's the evidence, so that I remain relevant in the future.
Yes, not just I've taken 20 people through that program, tick, I'm done, I'm brilliant.
Woo!
What's the actual change? Brilliant.
Yes,
I love it.
that's taken. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Thank you so much, Tienie. As always,
You're
great
welcome.
conversation. I could talk forever. Really broad subject, but I think we got some real good takeaways there for people listening.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And thank you for those that have turned up to listen. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Look us up on LinkedIn, DM us. We're